Clarence all began back about 1953. That's, we'll just say 50s. John Faulkner Art, ARNDT and Company, was an advertising agency in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And they worked on the early 1950s catalogs. Emmett Faison, who was an employee of that company, worked directly with Fenton in developing all the advertising for the trade publications and consumer magazines, including creating display ideas for the stores. Clarence is the glass craftsman figure that sits at the bench. He was originally called a gaffer, but is now called a finisher. Emmett and others from the advertising firm found him and other representatives of glassworkers in a special archive in Philadelphia. This artwork first appeared in the 1953 catalog. This advertising company's employees then molded the Fenton version of the finisher into a three-dimensional paper-mache sculpture seated on a bench, artfully using glassmaking tools. Actually, there were two sizes of Clarence. They're all paper-mache. He is. But the rod they hold is the real thing, and it's very heavy. And sometimes the Clarence figure falls because that rod is heavy. I borrowed this one. Unfortunately, we don't own one at the office, but he was sent out to the Marshall Field and Company in Chicago about 1953 for use as a display item. The staff at Marshall Field named him Clarence. So Fenton did not name him. Marshall Field employees did. And he's been Clarence ever since. From the original Marshall Field Clarence, other sculptures were made and displayed in stores and showrooms during special events, as well in print ads and glassware catalogs. Clarence quickly became a widely recognized trademark for the Fenton Art Glass Company. If you ever visited the Fenton Company, Fenton factory, you could look up on the outside of the building. You could look up at the outside of the building and you could see a concrete bas relief. There it is, as it was coming down. This is the front of the building. And he was created by Al Dye. I could find no information on Al Dye at all. I don't know whether he was local to us here. I don't have any idea. So anyway, he was concrete and they put him up there. As you can see, this is when they were in the process of taking him down before they tore the factory down. This bas-relief sculpture was carefully removed, although sometimes in pieces, at the time the factory was demolished. It can now be found lying in high grass. That's his bed, but he still exists. I'm not going to tell you where. Doesn't matter. But he does still exist. He's just in pieces, lying in high grass. This image was produced and reproduced on all kinds of things. I've put some of them out here. All glass companies had a glass blower or finisher figure that they modified and used in their advertising. Not everybody did. The marble companies didn't do that, but there were a lot of them. This is a cat's meow piece from 1953, or from 1991. You can buy some of this stuff off of eBay if you're interested. But that shows you him on the front of the building. Then this was 1993, this little one. And this one came later and is a cutout. They're a little harder to come by. We have a lot of this in the office. A lot of this I took out of the one case in the office. Some of this is mine, some belongs to the office. They did logo paperweights. We have 3 of them in the office. This one says, Phyllis, thanks for 34 years of helping build the Fenton reputation for good quality. All your friends at Fenton. I'm thinking that is Phyllis Bruce. She worked there forever, along with her husband. We also have one that says, Dear Mary, thanks for 37 years of loyalty and hard work as a selector, packer, and supervisor. Your quality, judgment, and strong leadership will be missed. We wish you the very best in your retirement and hope you come back often to visit all your friends at Fenton. Then there's the other one, which says, Dear Fred, thanks for over 44 years of quality service. Your fine work on thousands of baskets and countless molds will be missed. If there are any fish that got away, now is your chance to get them. Enjoy a long and happy retirement, all your friends at Fenton. So they were personalized. The logos, the big icebergs were. This is the large paper mache Clarence. This is a shoe that they put on that fit inside the shoe, the large paper mache piece. He was in the gift shop. He lives in the office. His shoe lives in the office. The clay figure also came out of the gift shop. One of the designers, if you're a first timer, you got all the designers that in your packet, it lists all the designers. And somebody molded this, but it never got made into 3D Clarence. He just is, he's fragile. He's out of clay. I had to be careful when I brought him in. This is the NFGS pin. We produce a pin every year. This one is the 2021 from our 30th convention. 5151, he was done in, they did 100 of these. This is 10 out of 100 in 2005. So that's your 5151 bear. They did a plate. It reads on the back, the Fenton Glass Company commemorates with this handmade plate the earliest glass craftsman of New America, Jamestown, 1608. So there's your plate. And he was number 1 in the series of collector's plates when they started doing all these collector's plates, which were so popular in the 70s, but they did this one in 1970s. the Stein. So they had the plate, the Stein, and the bell. And this was a crystal one. And this one was hand painted by C.C. Hardman in 2014 and has been living in a box at the NFGS office. And it's a one of a kind and will be in the banquet auction. So there he is. He's beautiful. He's absolutely gorgeous. So that's a banquet auction piece. The ruby stained craftsman paperweight will also be in the banquet auction. And it is a 3D carved ruby stained paperweight, number 701754. Chris, you need to look that up for me. And was done by Kelsey Murphy, Robert Bob Hansen. They used a lot of print memorabilia. And I picked these up at the gift shop, and they live at the office. They're all different shapes of Clarence or another glass maker. This is a glass presser. But you can come up afterwards and look at these. This one's probably the most obvious. It says Fenton at the copper. These were all pieces here that were sold in the gift shop. And if you're lucky, you can find them online. I had never seen this one before. Little brass bell, never seen it, found it on eBay. I don't like to pay a lot of money for stuff, so yeah. They sold these little pewter spoons by the dozens out of the gift shop. And it's got Clarence on the top. This is a magnet that's not a magnet anymore. It's sold, it's hard as a rock. It sold for $2 in the gift shop. This is a patch that was on some of the jackets. This you got when you went on a tour, has all kinds of information on it. And it was a fan because it was hot out there in the factory. These were all dealer pieces here. If you were a showcase dealer or even before, but these were all dealer pieces. You got those if you were a showcase dealer or whatever, and they all have Clarence on them. See, this doesn't even look like our Clarence, but that was handmade Fenton glass. That's a glass blower. He looks like he's from 1608 or whatever it was when the first glass blower existed. He's really old looking. They even had a bear, a souvenir bear that has a little jacket on that's got the logo and Clarence on it. A lot of this stuff just lives at the office. This crystal Stein is not Fenton. They did not blow this at all. But it was done with Clarence on it. I'm quite sure it was engraved at Fenton, Chris. Anyway, it says 24th Annual SGSP Hand Glass Symposium, Building Upon the Past for the Future. SGSP stands for Society of Glass Science and Practices. Clarence appears on in the labels. Clarence appears from 57 to 71 in magenta and blue, and 57 to 71 in magenta and blue on milk glass. Then again, 70 to 85 in black and gold. And so you can look at these when you come up afterwards. These little Sebastian miniatures, they are a glass blower. Again, a colonial glass blower, sitting on a bench, and you can find these on eBay once in a while. They're hand cast and hand painted in Hudson, Massachusetts. How many of you have heard of Sebastian miniatures? Yes. Down here are other things that have had a glass blower or a glass gaffer or something. This was a first aid cuffer for the U.S. Post Office, the American Revolution bicentennial in 72. So you have a stamp and an envelope put out by the post office. This is a folder for West Virginia glass companies. It lists Blanco, Fenton, Morgantown, Rainbow, Viking, and West Virginia Glass Specialty in Weston. Gives you a map. That's pretty cool little piece of memorabilia. There were a lot more glass factories than that. One time there was 400 and some in the state of West Virginia. Now there are 4, and I'm talking glass factories. I'm not talking glass studios, little one-man shops. It has to be a factory. So there's Davis Lynch in Star City, which is outside of Morgantown. Wismach and Marble King in Peyton City, West Virginia. Marble King is self-explanatory. Wismach makes flat glass, window pane glass for stained glass windows. So their stuff is shipped all over. So it's called flat glass or roll glass. Blanco, here's a glass blower. This is their glass blower on this. And the little disc that goes with it, they produced for an association, the NFGS. These are bells that came out in that same grouping. That one is Carnival. This one is Crystal Satin, Crystal Velvet. And this one came from Ellen Stoller, and she has the blue decorated one that says OVC Cornerstone Foundation 2005. Well, OVC was Ohio Valley College, which was in Vienna, and no longer exists. They went defunct. A lot of graduates of Ohio Valley College. It was a Bible college. Lots and lots. This piece was done in 2015, and it's one of a kind on blue Burmese. Am I right? Where's Ellen? Am I right? Okay. on Blue Burmese, and it was done by Robin Spindler. That's actually unbelievable. It's so cool. I love this piece. Maybe Ellen will send us back. I bought this locally at an auction. There's the center out of your plate. That's heavy. Dave, tell me what this is. I knew to buy it, I just didn't know how to describe it.
That is the way they trace the sign. They would have a machine set up, and they'd have a point on here, and then the grinder would be on that over there. So it's what they would call a tracer.
A tracer?
Yeah, you'd have a point here, and that would be
Here, here's the plate.
It'd be coordinated with this right here. This be the grinding part on the machine. Be cutting this out in the metal plate, and they would be following this right here.
Oh, so the tracer would be like a needle.
Yeah, it'd be like that right there.
And it would follow the grooves.
It would follow that, and then your sharp bit or whatever they're using would be cutting this in the metal.
So it's reverse. One thing interesting I learned while I was doing a little bit of research on Clarence was that they didn't hire anybody.
Did I answer your question?
A finisher, yes, darling. Thank you. Every finisher is right-handed. Just like Clarence. He was right-handed. Sometimes they got things in reverse and made Clarence's that were left-handed. This is left-handed. So they aren't really, it's just the Clarence figure, but
You turn around and be right.
I know, but you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to look at it this way. But all finishers are right-handed. They hired you, you were right-handed. There are 6 sets of Clarence as a mouse and a plate. I'm now advertising for the NFGS that you could take a chance on buying if your name is drawn for those 6 sets. So you just had to put your name in a little thing in the glass room when you in glass sales. So that's my advertisement. I love the plate.
It's beautiful.
I'm not crazy about the mouse, but that's just personal.
I like the mouse.
There isn't a whole lot out there. I just thought it might be interesting to everybody to know where Clarence started, when he started. I couldn't find the catalog.
I might have missed this, but is that an actual portrait of a person that works for?
Well, Belinda Fetty always thought that Clarence was Dave Fetty, was her dad. Not true, but
No, that's what you thought.
she thought that when she was a kid. She thought,
But is the fact that it was someone, or is it?
no,
just a
it's
question?
no one.
Okay,
It was
so
an
just
advertising agency's
creation.
creation.
Right.
Ask Clarence was a column that was used. I knew I was going to forget her name.
Glass Messenger.
Glass Messenger. Glass Messenger, thank you. That was a column created to have Frank Fenton ask you, you wrote in a question or two, and then they would publish it in the Glass Messenger with the answer. That was created either by Frank or Jim Mazzell. Clarence was just a name that the Marshall Field people tacked onto it. I mean, none of it was ever originated with Fenton, except that Fenton hired the advertising company to do some creative stuff. There is a reproduction of the 1953 catalog. They reproduced 2005.
Yes.
They reproduced it, put an old cover on it, and reproduced the catalog, and you can still find those out there. I like our pin. I love that pin. They did 3 pins that I really like.
No, we didn't have a convention in 2020 because of COVID. When did those pins get made?
They were the next year. We did them.
Oh,
We sold them the next year.